Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into some really interesting source material, looking at something maybe a bit unexpected.
Uh-huh.
It's about how the whole global situation with COVID-19 didn't just cause disruption in health and medicine. It actually sped up innovation in some pretty significant ways.
That's exactly right. We've got sources looking closely at things like decentralized clinical trials and also this really insightful piece by Gil Basha. He mapped out what he saw as the top 10 drivers for health innovation way back in December 2020, things the pandemic really pushed forward.
And what really comes through is that COVID wasn't just a health crisis, was it? It was like this huge, maybe force catalyst for change across the board.
Definitely.
A sort of urgent reboot for medical systems, technology use, even healthcare economics. But the big challenge, and the sources keep hitting this, is that inertia.
Yeah.
That, well, this is just how we do things, mindset.
Exactly. So our goal here in this deep dive is to really pull out the key insights from this material. We want to understand how the health landscape is genuinely shifting and, crucially, what that means for you in terms of research, getting care, and the tech behind it all.
Okay, great. Let's unpack that. The Bash article seems like a really good framework, laying out those top 10 drivers that got this pandemic boost. Let's walk through them. Maybe start with one that, well, everyone got familiar with very quickly.
First one, telehealth. I mean, the tech was there, the idea was there, but COVID absolutely forced everyone to deal with the practicalities, the regulations, the payment models, the sheer urgent need for care when you couldn't go in person.
Right.
And our sources point out how regulators, like the FDA, they move fast to
Right.
lower some of those compliance hurdles.
And the sources also mentioned something interesting about the economics, didn't they? How the fee-for-service model suddenly made virtual visits look very different.
Oh, absolutely. Physicians realize, okay, a virtual visit isn't just convenient, it's way better than no visit at all.
Right, better than no care and no reimbursement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the thinking shifted fast, and the material suggests telehealth is here to stay now. It's a permanent, convenient option, even if, it's not going to be the only way we get care.
Makes sense. And building on that remote idea, the sources also highlight the acceleration of remote monitoring and wearables. This is where, like, consumer tech models start showing up directly in healthcare.
Yeah, some cutting-edge centers, the sources say, are already moving away from tying patients to traditional bedside monitors. Instead, they're using digital systems built into beds, furniture, and these lighter, easy-to-wear devices.
Hmm.
And all that data just flows straight to the clinician's devices or central monitoring stations. Pretty seamless.
Which kind of leads naturally to the next one, artificial intelligence, AI. The sources seem quite clear on this point. Doctors don't see it as a replacement.
No, not at all. They see it as a really powerful tool for pattern recognition, something to enhance what they do.
Enhance how?
Well, AI can compare a current case against these massive data sets instantly. It can surface a whole range of clinical options, maybe things a single doctor wouldn't immediately think of. The source talks about it elevating performance, not just bedside manner, but like boosting their technical ability with data.
Okay, interesting. Shifting focus a bit, the fourth driver mentioned is wellness. And here the sources identify a kind of core problem, right? That our system is often more sick care than healthcare.
That's the critique, yeah. A system focused on treating illness, where the return on investment in terms of overall population health might actually be going down.
So wellness is pitched as the alternative.
As a win-win-win is how the source puts it. Good for households promoting self-care, catching chronic issues earlier, good for companies potentially lower healthcare costs, and good for governments easing the overall burden. It's about helping people live longer, healthier lives before they get really sick.
Okay, driver number five, and this seems really key, maybe we'll circle back to it. Decentralized clinical trials, or DCTs.
Ah, yes. The pandemic basically brought traditional site-based trials to a screeching halt,
Right.
which created this huge pressure to catch up, to keep drug pipelines moving. You couldn't just let everything sit idle.
So the companies running trials, the CROs.
The clinical research organizations, yeah,
Mhm.
they were forced to rethink everything, basically reinvent themselves. The source actually points to Operation Warp Speed, for the COVID vaccines, as proof that these large-scale, faster systems could be built and may be used for other urgent trials too.
And AI comes back into play here as well.
Big time, according to the sources. For finding and recruiting diverse participants, processing info much faster, reaching communities that were often left out,
Yeah.
analyzing huge piles of data. The idea is that decentralization can really make trials more democratic and more accessible.
Okay, number six, cell and gene therapy, CNGT. It feels like we're really reaching a point where we can use our genetic knowledge practically for health.
It does feel that way. The sources explained that those early CNGT efforts were crucial. They laid the groundwork figuring out regulations, development methods, and also starting to deal with the public's anxieties about safety and cost, which were significant.
And now?
Now, the latest stuff is showing real potential to actually stop certain rare diseases, or at
Yeah.
least manage them long term. The conversation is shifting from, is this even possible, to, okay, how do we use this amazing science for more critical conditions?
Yeah.
Companies are now focused on sorting out the really complex supply chains needed to deliver these therapies.
Got it. Number 7 is interesting, the power tech players. We're
Mhm.
talking Google, Amazon, Apple,
The
Microsoft.
household names. Yeah, the sources frame them as becoming these huge R&D labs for health innovation.
And they give examples, right? Google working on making different health systems talk to each other, interoperability, and using VR. Amazon looking at cutting waste in the supply chain. Apple maybe using its devices for diagnostics.
Right, using sensors on phones or watches, and Microsoft getting involved in drug development workflows and monitoring.
What's their big advantage?
Scale, mostly,
Yeah.
and credibility with users. They know how to integrate new things smoothly and meet what people expect from tech now. The sources emphasize that when big tech partners with biopharma, things can change really fast.
Okay, number 8 brings us back to basics, sort of. Primary and dental care. Well, COVID put the focus on infections.
Rightfully so.
The sources remind us about the slower moving threats, non-communicable diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, respiratory problems, mental health.
Yeah, the slow burn killers, as the source calls them. COVID definitely delayed checkups and screenings for a lot of people, but they will come back. And the material suggests big changes are coming, driven by what consumers now expect.
Like what?
Well, think about it. You can order food, get a ride, manage your bank account instantly on an app. Why shouldn't scheduling a doctor's visit be just as easy?
Yeah, good point. No more phone tag.
Exactly. And the source makes this funny but pointed comparison. If tech can supposedly translate your cat's meows,
Ha, I wish.
then why can't you get your own medical records instantly? In plain English. People know what tech can do. They'll increasingly want caregivers who treat them like informed customers who respect their time and intelligence.
Number 9, the supply chain. This really became visible during the pandemic, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Vaccine logistics made supply chain management a top-level corporate issue. It wasn't just some backroom operation anymore.
And it affects approvals, too.
Sometimes, yes. The sources point out that FDA decisions aren't just about the clinical data. Sometimes delays are due to manufacturing or logistics hurdles. So the supply chain is about money, yes, but also about getting life-saving treatments to people. It's a measure of whether a company can actually deliver, from lab to bedside.
Okay, last one on this list, number 10, death sentence diseases. The sources use examples like AIDS and certain leukemias.
Right, diseases that were once basically a guaranteed death sentence but are now, thankfully, often manageable chronic conditions because of medical breakthroughs.
And the point is that the fight continues against other devastating diseases.
Exactly.
Mhm.
ALS, brain cancers, cystic fibrosis, pancreatic cancer, the biopharma sector keeps pushing. And the source notes that patient groups themselves are often huge drivers of this research, just like the AIDS community was incredibly influential.
And the key insight for recent successes.
It's not just about small improvements. It's about being willing to try completely new things, not just repeating what failed before. It takes imagination, real innovation, and frankly leadership willing to take some calculated risks.
Okay, so that's a fascinating overview of 10 major forces reshaping health, spurred on by the pandemic. Now, you mentioned we should maybe dig deeper into one of those decentralized clinical trials. Let's pull in our other source material on that.
Yeah, DCTs really seem to tie a lot of these threads together, the tech, the access, the speed. This other excerpt paints a really compelling picture, a vision of research for everybody and every biology,
Meaning?
meaning using technology to open up clinical research to almost anyone, anywhere, breaking down those geographic barriers, the main goal, getting effective treatments to patients much faster.
And the scale here is huge, isn't it? The sources mentioned something about the cost.
Over $100 billion spent globally each year just on the patients participating in trials. It's like 25% of the industry's R&D budget. So there's a massive incentive. And you have tech companies, universities, regulators, all pushing this transformation to get more diverse patients involved and speed up discovery.
And it's not just one group pushing this.
No, the material highlights that it takes everyone, pharma, tech companies, the CROs running trials, patient groups, academia, They all have to work together, breaking down old silos.
The source talks about a platform ecosystem, mentioning Medable as an example. What's the idea there?
The idea is a system designed by the people who actually use it, clinicians, patient advocates, tech experts, to make the whole trial experience simpler, more intuitive, seamless, not just patching different old systems together, but building something integrated from the ground up.
So it's easier to use.
That's the goal. And flexible, too. Organizations can pick the specific tools they need, but it can still connect with their existing electronic systems the clinical software sites use so data flows in real time.
And the payoff. What are the big benefits they're aiming for?
Well, amplifying the science, really. Making research more inclusive by using tech to get past old barriers where you live, your income, even just knowing a trial exists. That leads to more efficiency, research populations that actually reflect the real world, and hopefully more treatments getting approved faster.
So it tackles those long-standing problems.
Exactly. Problems like access, getting different computer systems to actually share data interoperability, and just making the technology less frustrating for patients and the research staff.
There's even a mention of Gartner and a framework for evaluating this tech.
Yeah, the digital value framework. It points to the fact that organizations need to keep assessing their trial technology. It's not a one-and-done thing, which raises that key question that the source kind of leaves hanging. How do you pick the right digital tools for your research in this space that's changing so quickly?
Okay, so when you pull back and look at those 10 drivers we discussed, telehealth, wearables, AI, big tech involvement, and then you look at this deep dive into decentralized trials, you really see how technology is the bedrock, don't you?
Absolutely. It's the enabler for these huge shifts like DCTs. It's what makes research potentially more accessible, more diverse, and ultimately, it's what could drive faster progress, not just against major diseases, but in promoting overall wellness too.
And it's important to remember these aren't just abstract concepts happening somewhere else. These shifts, they're already starting to impact how you, listening now, interact with healthcare. Whether it's scheduling a telehealth appointment or maybe hoping a new treatment gets approved sooner, or even the chance for you or someone you know to join a clinical trial more easily from home someday, this changing landscape touches all of us.
So yeah, this deep dive really took us from that broad, maybe surprising impact of COVID on health innovation, right down through the specific tech and market forces, and into how something fundamental like clinical trials is being transformed.
And underlying it all, as the sources kept saying, is that challenge to the old ways, getting past the comfort zone of, well, this is how we've always done it.
Right. And that Bash article ends with a quote attributed to President John F. Kennedy. That feels like a really fitting thought to leave with, something for you to think about regarding the future of health and maybe your own engagement with it.
What's the quote?
Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try.